Welcome to another Study Melbourne and Outcome.Life Career Catalyst webinar. We are all about employability and giving international students in Victoria great employability skills to help you find employment here in Australia. Today is all about the hospitality and gigging economy industry, and we've got Benjemen here, who is the founder and CEO of SafetyBot and My Giggers, and has been working in the gigging economy for a very long time. We'll also be touching on hospitality and how both hospitality and gigging are such important industries, and also what we can be doing to transition into other careers from a hospitality and gigging if you're interested in doing it just temporarily. So I'll let a few more people filter in. But yeah, we've got Dom here. Dom, would you like to introduce yourself to everybody here?
Hello everyone, my name's Domenic and the co-founder of Outcome.Life, and we set up our business 5 years ago to assist internationals in Victoria get jobs in their field of study, and part of that is a transition from university through jobs in the gig economy, perhaps, into jobs in your field of study. And it is amazing just how important working in the gig economy is so that you can make that transition. And we're going to be talking about just the things you need to highlight to help you get a job in your field of study as you make that transition. So welcome everyone, and thanks for coming along, Benji.
Yeah, Benjemen, would you like to tell us a bit more about yourself?
Yeah, thanks for having me here, Tom and Anja. To start with, I was an international student not many years ago, and started off like many others in this webinar at the moment. Like gig work is the most easily accessible place to start, and I started off with hospitality, worked in bartending and delivering food and rideshare. So I think this is an important conversation for every one of us to have. It is a growing industry, it is a growing economy. We can't stay away. We got to embrace it while doing it, while being smart at it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And take advantage of it, Benjemen. And that's what we're going to be focusing on. So the internationals that are working in the gig economy, how you can take advantage of that experience to help you get a job in your field of study. And the students who really take a focus in taking advantage of it do get really good results.
Yeah, I'd love to know a little bit more, Benjemen, about, you've been working in the gigging industry a long time. What do you love about it, and what opportunities has working in that gigging industry given you?
The ones that we usually see are, the Ubers of the world and Uber Eats of the world, which there are more to that. Essentially gig economy, we see that is three parts. One being platform generated jobs, and two, like freelancers, Upwork, taskers, and three, we call it the sharing economy, where car next door, garage next door, and all of that stuff. And there's also other casual odd jobs, right from hospitality to food picking to everything. They all come within this broad spectrum of gig workers or gig economy. For many students, the access is to a number of these hospitality jobs, a number of these gig workers, where a little bit training, a little bit just awareness about how this goes can easily get them started. And that's how I started into gig work. And I can't say I can become a millionaire out of gig work yet, but it definitely helps as an international student to get things started, pay the bills, keep things on tap. And COVID, and I'm sure we're going to touch on this, COVID is definitely shown how this gig workforce is, one, useful, two, and the significant surge in the number of gig workers. Now, there are a number of different things, right? Like even in large companies, people are being laid off, and these people too choose to work in casual jobs, like freelancing jobs. And these are skilled workers, could be a web designer, could be a marketer, a content writer. And whereas the other population is there has been 100% spike in Victoria whenever there has been a lockdown on food delivery drivers, food delivery. So people in lockdown obviously wanted to order a lot of food, so that becomes an essential service, and a lot of food delivery drivers are needed on the road. And you would see that people choose to go ride share. And I saw Didi's announcement recently that they have a special tip for people who want to go for vaccination, and they get a discounted fare, things like that. So all of a sudden, COVID has shown that gig workers who have been in the dark has been a spotlight, and they are now considered essential service. A, B, they are more in numbers, so we get to know more about them, and it's not just the economy in our government and communities, and just like what Outcome.Life is doing, we are all now interested to support and champion this gig workforce to be more better.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, especially what you said about, gig workers and hospitality workers. Everyone is really in the limelight now. Everyone realizes how essential a service they are. You were talking about how I didn't know that number about how food deliveries increased 100% during lockdowns, but that doesn't surprise me. I think the other night, I got myself some Indian food delivered because I was wanting to do something during lockdown. So I think that's a really great thing. And there's also a few government visas and grants and stuff they're starting to bring in specifically for international students who want to stay longer and are working in the hospitality or gigging industries, because we realize how much we love and value and need our local barista and our local delivery drivers. Awesome.
So Ben, now we've had a little bit to do with each other. You went through Outcome.Life's pre-accelerator program with my SafetyBot. So there you were looking at improving the safety of all workers. However, you then pivoted away to something that you were very passionate about, and that was about improving the safety of gig workers. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I started my startup journey from Outcome.Life, and I still remember my first days of actually preparing the lean canvas and sitting in Outcome.Life and preparing for a pitch. From the very beginning, I was driven to see how we could make workplaces and people in the workplace smarter and safer, and that was my driving force. And my SafetyBot was born out of that passion to see how we can make people safer. Given that I've worked in the gig economy and as a gig worker firsthand, and I had the experience of being out there waiting for food, moving moving riders, and I always back in my mind wanted to go back and see if there is anything that we could do within this community. Fortunately, last year we had the opportunity to pitch into one of government accelerator programs, which was Civic Labs, that's supported by Launch Victoria. And in that program, we participated against a challenge set by one of the government agency, which is WorkSafe Victoria. And the challenge was, how do we make gig workers safe? Now, you may have already noticed that, last year, just over the last year, 6 food delivery drivers sadly lost their lives on the road, and over 100 people got injured. Now, that sparked the interest of the government and also other communities of how can we keep them safe, and, how can we protect them? So while participating in this challenge, we were one among the 65 odd companies to be selected to solve this challenge for the government. And my Gigsters came or conceived as part of that challenge on talking to a number of gig workers and number of rideshare drivers and number of others in the delivery space. And here I am today, championing with my team. We're so passionate about this space because the more and more I talk to people who are doing food delivery and rideshare and other gig works, the more and more I wanted to go tell them there is a community. You got to be aware. You can do this work smartly. You can be safe on the road. And henceforth, more and more reasons why my Gigsters need to be existing for them.
Wonderful. And your focus has been on letting the gigsters that are working in the industry know what support is out there for them. And it was quite surprising, just the number of, well, the amount of support there is. Can you let people know about that a little bit?
Yeah, I probably will share with a story. I landed in Melbourne, on the 23rd of July, actually around the same time 6 years ago. And I was reading through, on my flight to Melbourne, I was reading through how to get a job in Melbourne. Like any other, I'm sure most of the intern students done this. And there's a couple of things came out, right? Like you go do an RSA certificate, a food certificate, and all of that stuff. Then you might get some job in hospitality or download an app and apply for a delivery job. And that's exactly what I did. I came, day 2, I went and did those courses. Day 3, I attended an interview, and day 6, voila, I got a job in hospitality sector, which is fun, which is great. But then I obviously didn't know or anything about this new space, new regulations, who to talk to, when to talk to. And the only people that I knew is a bunch of my roommates who are doing very similar jobs, and they are half true than me. So it's like, if I have to go back again and do this, I would have taken the time to actually know what's the space about, what is my rights, and who are my support community. I didn't really know that actually I can actually go talk to Study Melbourne if I have any issues. I can actually go talk to communities within international student bodies, Outcome.Life, and other regulators, where if I have a question or if I have an unsafe situation, I didn't know any of that. So it's very important for anyone who is planning to come into gig work or currently doing gig work. There is so much of support and community around this, and there's so much of information available. The reason why we need to tap into it, it just makes gig workers take a smarter decision. Like it took me almost 4 months to realize that you can't ride the bicycle on a pavement. I was like, what? From where I come from, we drive everywhere. And it was considered safe, right? And all of a sudden you're saying it's not safe. And it's just that the new landscape of safety and new landscape of work, I strongly would urge, now that's something that you need to touch base with the community for.
Cool, and I think that's it's a really important thing. So you mentioned that there's Study Melbourne, who of course are champions of supporting international students. And so if any of you out there are having any issues whatsoever, it might be legal issues, or it might be that you're just struggling a little bit mentally, you can always go and seek some support from Study Melbourne. But there's other people out there as well, and one of them is WorkSafe. And you've developed quite a strong relationships with WorkSafe, which is the Workers' Compensation Authority here in Victoria. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so WorkSafe Victoria is your safety regulator. Their job is to ensure that regardless of what work you're doing, their job is to ensure that you're safe. And if unfortunately, if you are injured at work, their job is also to ensure that you are taken care and then you're brought back into the workforce easily and less painfully. Now, many of them they think regulators are like the police, you shouldn't talk to them, but regulators are there to help gig workers access information, get support, and also it's where you go and talk to someone who knows more about the space and they can support it. So WorkSafe Victoria is for Victoria State, is the safety regulator. And there are other regulators like Commercial Passenger Vehicle Victoria, which is for rideshare, but WorkSafe Victoria champions the safety side of it.
Certainly for hospitality workers and those
yes
people. And so the message would be for anyone working in that area is that if you feel that there's something happening in your workplace, or you've been asked to do something that you feel is unsafe, there are people to ask. And these people are very, very helpful. And they are not to be, treated as though don't talk to them because, they're out to get you. These are people who genuinely do wish to help. So we certainly encourage everyone to touch base with them. But on the My Gigster platform, Benji, so if someone is working in the gig space and they join your platform, what are the benefits?
There are actually three key benefits, Dom. One, we understand this, that the biggest thing that we want to do is build an amazing community for gig workers to connect, share, learn, support each other. Because as a food delivery driver, you're not working as a team. You don't have this little office style gossip or something like that. So you need to be part of a community to have that support that you need. So that's what My Gigsters is central about. We bring people of all gig work, and right now, rideshare and delivery drivers, into this amazing community where they can connect and share. While they're there, we wanted to make sure they get trusted information. So that's where we partner with regulators. We partner with, WorkSafe Victoria, Study Melbourne, Outcome.Life, where we channel good information, access to, trusted information that they can use. And also we offer some tools. Now, it's one, being safe, two, being smart. And in knowing where to work, how to work, knowing how does money flow and things like that. We built some interesting tools for gig workers, kind of a financial genie that helps them to make better decisions with their earning, income, tax, and all that stuff. So those are the three parts. One, having an amazing community. Two, access to some information that they need either while doing gig work or planning to do gig work. And finally, some amazing tools that they help them to maximize their earning, save money on tax, and also be safer while at work.
And you are supported by the Victorian government, and you're fortunate enough to be the one of 65 companies that was supported by the Victorian government because it was such a good idea that they wanted to support you. Does it cost anything to join?
It's free. Me and the team are so humbled and honored to actually work with the government and get funding from the government. It's one, yes, we get the money from the government, but two, it's actually taxpayers' money. It's your money that I'm using to help the wider community. So it's an added responsibility. So at the moment, it's free for any like rideshare and delivery drivers to come and participate in the community. And thanks to the government fund.
Yeah, terrific. And what are some of the success stories of people that you've helped? I'm sure there'd be a few that would come to mind.
We are a relatively new startup, and we built an amazing community of over 1,000 gig workers, and we've been connecting and sharing a lot of stories that empower others to think different, be more confident, and have more courage. Our tools have been phenomenal in helping gig workers save a lot of money on taxes, for example. Wow. And for example, one of the things that we do is a mileage tracker. Now, if you're working in the food delivery space, according to the ATO, you can claim your mileage back, provided you maintain a detailed log of the mileage that you're covering. So our systems enable gig workers or delivery drivers to automatically log that mileage whenever they're at work. By having this digital log, they now get access to roughly around $3,000+ in terms of tax deduction that they wouldn't have had before. That's one example of the tool.
Helpful to know, especially during tax season. We have a quick question, Benji, about how would you define gig work for people who are a bit more unfamiliar with, what the gigging industry entails?
Yeah, gig work is it's a place of work where you are working for yourself, and you're not entitled to work for 9 to 5, or you're not working for an employer, or it's kind of the new way of workforce. Now, you could be a software developer working for freelancer.com, and you are a gig worker in that platform. You could be an Airbnb host, and you are a gig worker because you're sharing your property with others. You could be a hospitality worker, casually working in a number of different cafes. You're a gig worker. Now, what does that mean? It's just a terminology that we're using for this new kind of workforce that has been fast evolving in the last 5 years. You don't really have to work 9 to 5. You can choose where to work, who to work for, and how do you work for. You don't have to work in one job. You can work in 10 jobs. So that's the new gig workforce. There are other words in the industry, some called as passion economy, some called as creative economy, and gig economy. These are all the same words. It all means the same thing. And that's the future.
And I think, people who know me know I'm a chartered accountant. And so for me, the big difference is that you're not an employee and that you work for multiple people. And so therefore the end of your shift is the end of the work. The end of your little assignment that you get from freelancer is the end of the relationship with whoever you're doing the work for. So a gig worker is someone that does lots and lots of little pieces of work for multiple people. It can be that, but you're not an employee. And so therefore you miss out on a lot of benefits of being an employee. But what gig work is fantastic for is bridging the gap from university to getting a job in your field of study, whether it's engineering, whether it's accounting, whether it's IT, whatever it might be. And so therefore, what we want to do and what Study Melbourne is very focused on, and so to Outcome.Life and all the regulators here in Victoria, is that we want you to be safe during that time when you're doing gig work. And that's what My Gigsters is all about, which is what Benjemen does. And it is also what the government is all about and what today is all about. So hopefully that explains what gig work is a little bit more.
Absolutely. And I think you go for it, Benji.
Now, just to add to Dom's point, gig work for an international student also means flexibility. Look, for a number of us, we paid thousands of dollars to come to Melbourne to do postgraduate or undergraduate, and you got to make sure you study well. And so gig work helps you to balance study and work. So you get access to work in the flexible time you want, and you can study whenever you want to study. So without compromising uni versus work. That's just an added point. Flexibility is a great thing in the gig work space.
You literally took the words out of my mouth, Benjamin. I was just about to talk. One of the amazing things about gig work and hospitality work and all that sort of thing is the flexibility. And I've met people who are international students who are using it to do flexible work around their studies. I've met parents who are doing it so that they can spend time with their kids during the day and work in periods where, their kids are at school, so they spend more time with their families. Do you have, how do you break up your day with that flexibility, and can you share some examples of how different people might structure that work to really unlock that full potential of flexibility that gig work offers?
As a gig worker, the key to gig work is actually knowing how best can I earn more money in a less time possible. Nobody wants to sign up for, I want to be a doctorate in Uber or Uber for life. I don't think that's the intention in this space. A number of these platform jobs are considered to be a temporary landing space for students. So we just have to, let's say I'm planning to go work today, right, the Tuesday, and I wanted to think, okay, which would be a better place to work, or which platform will be better to work. I don't want it to be driving 200 kilometers today and earning money. Can I earn that quicker? Can I earn that sooner so that I can go back home, maybe focus back on studies or do something else professionally upskilling me? So it's just about understanding where, when, and what to do. And also choosing jobs that is it's going to be comfortable and safe for you. You don't want it to go in unsafe situation just because there's money. I know, yes, you can earn maybe $10 extra, but that doesn't mean that you should take an unsafe situation. A number of drivers do that, right? They would have done 8 hours of driving, and we know that after 8 hours of driving, you will be tired. You need to rest. But people would just continue to drive because back in their mind, they're like, oh, I need to make that extra $50. Can I make that? There was the last customer. I need to just drop that customer. Now I'm just, I say this to my community. Yes, $50 is money. I'm not denying it, but your job is to be safe first, where you can have more time to work over a long period of time. And it's very important to the question that I always ask myself, why are you doing what you're doing? And that will often make you take the best decision.
That's a really great example. Are there any other major points of safety that people should be considering when they're doing gig work? Because I know that My Gigsters is all about promoting the safety of gig work. Is there any other big pitfalls that a lot of people fall into?
I could summarize them into three main points. One, Dom highlighted this at the very start. It's just the awareness. Not knowing something makes you weak to make decisions. So it's very important to know what it is. What would you do if there was a workplace bullying? Who would you talk to? What would you do if you met an accident? What's the next step you do? Now it's just understanding what's the landscape and who to talk to. That's very helpful. Having information at hand is the key. Number two is, this is more a cultural thing, right? I'm just talking from my own cultural perspective. I'm coming new to country. I'm just new. I hardly know 10 people here. I don't want to get into trouble. I don't want to call police. I don't want to get into that kind of a thing. So, and I urge a number of this kind of mindset to change. You need to be confident and you need to go talk to someone. If there is something unsafe, if you've been in an unsafe situation or an unsafe incident, like we mentioned, there are Study Melbourne, there are different communities and regulators ready to support, and you should go talk to them. And the number three is, a pitfall is, it's a job. It's a job. So every job has to be considered as work, and the work entails being safe and doing it in the best way possible. So use better leverage tools, better leverage channels, better leverage information, better leverage community, and that will help you to be smarter at that work. I did not get trained to be a bartender, but I still did bartending course. But I'm so happy that I did bartending work because now I've got a new skill set. It's just being open to new things and learning through that is also another thing.
And Benj, what I'd like to talk about now is that how can international students use their gig work to get a job in their field of study? Because this is the bit that I love to help international students with. Because let's face it, we came to Australia not to drive an Uber. We didn't, but what we're trying to do is get a job as a mechanical engineer, or we're trying to get a job as a financial consultant, or we're trying to, whatever it might be that we are doing. And I think that gig work is totally underrated as a vehicle for getting yourself a job in your field of study. And we'll talk about that a little bit. The number one thing I want international students to think about is that whenever you're executing your job and every time you are out in the public and meeting people, every time you speak to someone, treat it as an interview. I know lots of international students send out hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of applications for jobs, never even get an interview. Whereas driving an Uber, delivering food, meeting someone in the coffee shop when you're making them their cappuccino, that is a perfect opportunity to present yourself and treat that as an interview. And we had the fantastic situation the other day that Jared's Uber driver from a couple of years ago, by meeting Jared, came into the hub when it was open before COVID, decided to do an internship, and now he's a front-end web designer. If he hadn't have introduced himself to Jared in the Uber as studying web development, I think it was at RMIT, I can't remember, he would not have gotten that job. And so, it's really important for all internationals to utilize this time, the work that you're doing, to make sure that you're introducing yourself and telling people your story. Most people are very, very interested, and let them know what you're doing because they may be able to help. And people in Australia, given the opportunity, love to help you. Another one would be about LinkedIn. So Benj, I know you're a bit of a champion of LinkedIn, but what should every single international student be doing when they meet people whilst they're doing with their job related to LinkedIn?
Related to LinkedIn, let's be honest. When we come to a new country, you don't know anyone. It's maybe 10, 15, 20, and the only way you could get into a good job or actually connect professionally is through using digital platforms and also networking both in the physical and virtual world. And we can't. I'm sure Dom would have addressed this in a number of different forums before. It's so important to actually be connecting with others. Now, it's not just for a job, but generally connecting with others out of goodwill reasons. And LinkedIn is a powerful tool where you can go and showcase one, your skill set, two, what you're passionate about, three, and why are you here and what are you planning to do? And just being authentic, you're just showcasing to a lot of potential employers. In my case, I'm a startup founder. I'm actually showcasing to all my partners, investors, that I am passionate about gig work. My platform is all about gig economy and working for gig workers. And that helps me to connect with lots of opportunities, help me just voice what my passion is about. So I see a number of international students haven't really got a LinkedIn profile, and sometimes, it's very important to use a digital platform like that to their benefit. And you never know, you could meet someone out of there who would give you a job or might become a startup founder like me. There's 100 possibilities. And I would definitely, I'm not endorsed by LinkedIn to say this, but I would definitely prefer LinkedIn as a professional networking tool compared to, other tools, which is Instagram or Facebook, where it's not that very professional. But Dom, you brought this interesting point that how do gig work international students leverage gig work? And I had the same challenge, right? Like I had 6 to 10 months of work in hospitality and delivery and cleaning, and I was like, how do I put this in my CV? I'm doing masters in business. Can I even say this? Should I say that I didn't work anywhere? How do I even say it in the interview if they ask me what have you been doing? And it took me a while to actually build the courage to actually say, yes, I was working, and I was working I was working as a professional waiter. Now, when in the interview asked, so what did you learn? I've learned a lot of things about being a professional waiter. It's one of the most stressful jobs out there. You would need to remember who sits in which table, which chair needs to be served what. You need to remember the order. You got to run with food. You got to have 3 plates. Lots of time management. There's a lot of skill involved and that you got to learn. If you are a Uber driver, then you are the best customer service representative that the company can get. You are meeting customers day in and day out. Some of them are good, some of them are bad. You have navigated through all of those customers. You've given an excellent experience. You have taken them safe from one place to another place. That's a service-oriented job. And all of these gig workers are ABN holders. They are sole traders, which means you have done your own, or to a certain extent, financial accounting. That it's financial accounting knowledge that you have, you can literally take that skill into a small and medium businesses. Quite often in my network of international students, they say, oh, I can't say that. Can I say that I was working for this cleaning company? Yes, you can. It's just that how you say it and you're just being confident about it makes a lot of difference.
You hit the nail on the head there, Benjamin. And I think, we've talked about this in a few webinars. We talked to some people who had been recruiters in the past, and they talk about how any experience is better than no experience, even if you have worked at Macca's or if you've worked as an Uber driver. And I think you've also created a really great example there of, one, be proud of the work you've done. Some people haven't worked at all. So you've done it. You've already started building your employability skills. And the other one is all about how do you frame it? So think about those skills, and you gave some excellent examples there of, yes, I have managed relationships with people. I've developed work ethic. I showed up on time. I managed my time. I managed my finances. If you just think about how that can translate into other work, it creates an amazing foundation for almost any kind of work you're going to go into. And I think you have some things you want to add on here, Dom, by the looks of it.
No, I just think it's really important. A lot of international students that I've met are almost feel embarrassed about the work that they've done because, you know, working at McDonald's is not being a mechanical engineer. But working at McDonald's, and when I was doing the graduate recruitment for KPMG and for Pitcher Partners, we would actually look out for people who work in fast food outlets. Why? Because they have to work as part of a team. They have to follow procedures. They have to deal with the most difficult people on the planet, which are the people who eat McDonald's. They're full of sugar and they're half nuts. And so understanding that these are fantastic experiences that you should be putting into your resume, you should be putting onto your LinkedIn profile and talking about during interview. It will be the difference between you getting a job and not getting a job. If you can articulate how doing the work that you're doing in the gig economy, how that has helped you in your life, you will get the job compared to the person who's coming in for the next interview, who is perhaps a little bit embarrassed about the work that they have had to do. And so the lesson there is to be proud of it and talk about it in those terms of what has that taught me, and use those, the gig work that you've done as an example during your interviews. Now, I have put a link there to the Career Catalyst page where you can sign up for a LinkedIn webinar that I run, where I teach you how to create a fantastic LinkedIn profile. And very, very important again, every single person that you meet in your journey here in Australia, ask to connect with them on LinkedIn. Make sure you send them a personal note, because these are the people who are going to help you get a job in the future, because we all love referring. The other one that I wanted to talk about was just basically networking, and you touched on it, Benjamin, earlier, that you've got to get to as many networking events as you possibly can. And for that, you can use meetup.com and Eventbrite, places like that. Really important that you go to, and every single person that you meet, again, talk about your experiences, and the best stuff to talk about is the gig work that you do. So a couple of really important points there.
Absolutely. And the other thing you were talking about, both of you, was that when you are working in the gig economy, you are constantly interacting with people. And so absolutely, like Dom said, viewing every interaction as a potential interview, as a way to display your amazing skills and people skills specifically, is a really great opportunity. But there are people, especially, you know, there are some people who are extroverts that could talk for ages and it comes easily to them. And there are people who are more introverted and find that more difficult. Do you have any advice, Benjamin, for people who are new to the gig industry? They're not quite confident in people skills yet, and how they can build up their people skills and become more confident in those interactions?
Let's say you're a rideshare driver, right? And I'm just stealing the words from Josh Farr in one of my podcast episodes. He called it as the university on wheels. Now, it is a university on wheels. It's like you meet customers, and there's no safe space than just having a few chat, like, "Hi, Dom, how are you doing? And how your day's been?" This is very simple. Yes, I might be quite uncomfortable in a new world, in a new space, and Dom being Dom, I kind of like, well, can I even talk to him? But often, you know, Dom will give me a 5-star rating just because I asked him how his day was. And Dom might be interested to know me. And it's like, Dom's like, "I'm doing good. How are you?" Then like, "I'm doing good, Dom." And then that sparks a conversation. It's very simple conversation. I know for many of, you know, who has come from different nations where English is not a first speaking language, they would be a little hesitant to talk to anyone. But hey, let's face it, this is the new world. We got it to practice. We got it to learn how to talk. We got to learn to be confident in what our message is and what best way to do if it's in a car with Dom. And that's the message. You got to try a little bit, and over time you will be amazed by how better you've become. And I'm a real example. And I am not like this. I wasn't like this before. Just by sharing my story, just by sharing what I believe in, I'm just more confident day by day. And I think that's what everyone should do, regardless of whether you're introvert and extrovert. just saying hi, how are you? It's probably the best thing to do.
And Benjamin, I remember in the early days, you've probably asked to speak, catch up on a Zoom, have coffee with me dozens of times. How many times did I say no?
I don't remember. I don't count those things. Now, the message is you got to connect with people. Not that Dom will give me a job or Dom will give me a $500,000 investment. Not for that reason. I just wanted to build a connection and just share my story with Dom. And I know Dom would have a similar story and similar information for me to connect and share. And I think that's where it's needed to be part of the community, needed to access services. If I wouldn't have come to Outcome.Life and participated in the International Accelerator program, I wouldn't have taken the next step in the startup journey. I wouldn't have taken the next step to then where I am today, where I'm actually very confident and passionate about what I'm working. It all triggers with some one conversation somewhere in the train with someone. That's kind of the butterfly effect of one small conversation can be.
Cool.
Yeah, I think that's a great takeaway. And a few of the things I really got from that is, one, practice makes perfect. So even if you're a bit nervous, if you're a bit shy, just practice saying hi, how are you doing? And conversation will flow from there. The other thing is that I love this quote, which is, people won't remember what you said, they'll remember how you made them feel. So even if your English isn't completely great, one, you probably know more languages than other people here. That's an incredible skill to be proud of, that you are multilingual, even if you're not fluent. And the other thing is, if you've got a great energy, I've been with Uber drivers who, it doesn't matter that they didn't speak perfect English. I just loved how friendly and joyful they were. And I remember, exiting that car ride going, man, they've just made my day so much better. I love that energy. 5 stars, absolutely, all the way. Fantastic person to get to know. So yes, bring good energy, practice, you will get there. It just takes time.
And there's a question from Asraf, who's interested in starting an IT business. Now, Benji, you've done this and I've done this. How could an international student go about starting an IT business here in Australia?
Good. You should first come and talk to us. No, I'm kidding. Now, connect with someone in the startup ecosystem. It could be a pre-accelerator program or someone who has done this. Connect with someone, and that's where LinkedIn is very helpful. Also, again, create a profile, go talk to someone, ask them how they've done it, or ask them if they know someone who've done it, and just connect from there. Number 2 is, once you get connection, then you start to understand what you wanted to solve in the amazing IT space, and it's Victoria is turning into an IT giant. So what kind of things you wanted to solve, and just a startup, in my opinion, is only successful as good as what the network is and how strong the network is. You as a single person having a vision cannot solve the problem. You got to be connected with people who then form the ecosystem together, and then there is knowledge flow, energy flow in our ecosystem. So first step, go connect with someone. Could be a program or could be someone, mentor, coach, it doesn't matter. Just go connect with someone and just share your thought, and that'll be a good step forward.
Cool. And there's lots of pre-accelerator programs out there. And I would, if you're really starting out, it's a bit of a waste of time going for accelerator programs. So accelerator programs is for someone who has already started. So target looking for pre-accelerators. Now, we run a pre-accelerator program as part of Outcome.Life, which is supported by Study Melbourne through Career Catalyst. We'll be running another one shortly, so perhaps hit me up on LinkedIn and let me know of your intention. But a pre-accelerator program is at the very, very start. It takes the idea, it takes the problem that you're trying to solve and tries to come up with a business proposition around it. So this is the problem, this is the solution, and this is how you're going to solve it with IT. And that's really the start. And then you'll get into different concepts such as lean canvas and these very contemporary ways to start a business. But Benjemen says it's only as good as the people that you know, which is 100% correct. The other part is it's only as good as the problem that you're trying to solve. And although you might be a web developer, you might be a Python developer, you might have lots of skills, but if you don't have a problem that needs solving, that someone's willing to pay for that problem to be solved, you won't have a business. And that's the other part of it. So it's really important that you try and nail the commercial business application around whatever it is that you are doing. And that's where people like myself, Benjemen, other people that have been through this a number of times can definitely help. So look out for pre-accelerator programs and go to lots of meetups in the startup ecosystem. That is probably the best place. And I see that Anja put Eventbrite down there. Meetup.com is another one. Go along to different industry events in the area that you're looking to solve problems in, because you'll meet lots of people that will give you lots and lots of ideas. But getting out there, getting a network around you is probably the most important thing. Hopefully that answers your question, Asrith, but feel free to follow up with any other questions as well. So we're happy to take questions, and please feel free to put through your questions for Benjemen or Anja or myself, because you know, you've got a wealth of knowledge here of people that have started businesses. And just to reiterate too what Benjemen did achieve in going through the Civic Labs accelerator and pre-accelerator program. And this is something for you, Asrith, also, and that is that the government, many government departments issued problems that they needed solving. And the problem that the government put out there and asking for people to solve, that Benjemen got involved in, is how do we make gig workers safer? And 65 people put in proposals to get funded and go through an accelerator program to try and create an initiative that's going to help gig workers. And Benji, an international student, doesn't even have PR. The government has chose him over all the other applications. So this isn't even a person that's permanent resident here in Australia. You're not a permanent resident, are you, Benji? The government chose Benjemen and chose to give him $185,000 to solve this problem over 64 other businesses. And this is why Australia, this is why Victoria is such a wonderful, wonderful place to come and live, work, study, start a business, because, you know, someone like Benji, who isn't even a permanent resident, was chosen out of 65 people to come and solve that problem. Why? Because he had the best solution. And that's why I just love Victoria, Australia, and the Australian government, because they're just fair to every single person. And Benjemen, how did that make you feel that, you know, you were the one of 65 people that the government chose to support with your initiative?
Where one was quite, actually, to be started, was quite surprising, because in back of my mind I was thinking, oh, maybe not, maybe not. It's just that my the syndrome in me was tickling. But once after we went through the program, there's a couple of things that I loved about it. Right, one, it's as you mentioned, Dom, it's about the problem. It's about the problem you solve, and now you all of a sudden you are so emotionally invested in this problem that you would love to see that problem getting solved and change the actual gig worker on the road. Can I make that person earn extra $10? Can I make that person more safer? And I get that happiness out of doing it. And getting the government to support an initiative like us, and from zero background, like hardly know anyone, right? From zero background, that is very honored, and I'm very humbled to do that. And it now just adds a bit more responsibility for me and the team. That, okay, we've got money from the government because they've trusted us that we will do right by them, and we'll do right by the community. And now all of a sudden we are just, you know, we're like, now this is it, this is what we're going to do. And I also, in my back of my mind, I wanted to say to other international students such as Ashraf, who's also thinking about startup, if I can do it, you can also do it. I'm not the smartest person, so it's just being passionate about something and hustling through and getting it done, and talking to the right people and getting the right information. So, and as Dom mentioned, Victoria and Australia in general, they're so startup friendly that if you've got the right attitude, if you've got the right problem solution fit, government, investors, communities, regulators, everybody will pitch in. And it's so much of support, you wouldn't believe that you will be showered with blessings from every direction. And so important as a startup founder, I can't say that's phenomenal for a startup founder to receive. And this just changes the way everything looks for you.
And for you, Benjemen, you know, a couple of things about you. If anyone was ever to ask me, tell me about Benjemen, I will say that you are incredibly passionate about the work that you do, and that you bring a fantastic attitude, and you work very hard. And you know, they're the three key things, but it wouldn't have worked unless you had the best solution to solve the problem. And so all those things do need to come together in order for it to be a success. But I think, you know, you provide a shining example for lots of international students out there that, you know, do good things and good things will happen. And, you know, international students are incredible in that, you know, they made this decision to leave their country, their families, their friends, their social infrastructure, to come to another place to study and perhaps to migrate here. And so who better than to entrust with, you know, these quite serious responsibilities, such as, you know, helping gig workers, than people like you. And so these are the wonderful opportunities that are available to all internationals. And so please take advantage of them. Make yourself aware of what's out there, how much help there is, so that you can be the best you can be.
So a quick question for you, Benji, before we wrap everything up today. It's been awesome to chat to you and get so much more information about the gig economy and where people can go. So if someone hasn't already been part of the gig economy, but hopefully we've convinced them that that's a good idea as a first job until you can get work in the industry you're wanting to go for. So there's a few things we've already talked about doing, you know, check out some communities and study Melbourne and Outcome.Life for the social communities and building your skills. Join gig workers, my gigsters, so that you can get safety and trusted information. What are some of the platforms and some of the other places that people can go, Benjemen, if they wanting to start getting into gigging?
I would probably ask the question to myself, what am I planning to achieve by doing this gig work, and what resources do I have? Like if it's, there's a number of different jobs, right? Like you could be in the hospitality sector, or if you're having a bike or a car, you could do food delivery versus, you know, ride share. So one, knowing what time you have, what resources you have, and you could choose to do more than one if it suits you. A number of these platforms have very less in barrier to entry. So all you need to guess is just have a license, have a valid car, a registration, and then off you go. These platforms will offer you a job. It may take 1 or 2 weeks to get the account created and jobs being activated, but there is a lot of platforms out there in food delivery, just delivery space, last mile delivery, which is also popular these days, and rideshare. Now in the hospitality sector, you would need to go for a few training, around handling food, responsible service of alcohol if you're working in a place where alcohol is served. And these trainings are very easy to do and they don't cost you much. You could do that in less than $50, and that will give you the best information to present yourself in an interview. And there is lots of opportunities in this space. While many of the not in Melbourne, there are lots of fund being provided to events and local hospitality sectors to slowly open up and create more, drive. Let's go in CBD. There's a lot of money actually in CBD for people to come back. So which means there's also opportunity for you to tap in there. Going back is the same question you would want to ask is, so what am I trying to achieve? Why am I doing what I'm doing? And how I can best place myself in the time that I have so that I don't compromise study while I also get professional learning out of it.
Yeah, and I would add to that, Benjamin, that there is a lot of different types of gig work out there, and Anja just put up quite a few links that people can go and access. My advice would be choose one where you're going to meet as many people as possible. The only work I really don't like is cleaning, because you normally do that by yourself. There's nothing wrong with cleaning. I was a cleaner. I used to have to polish floor during university, so there's nothing wrong with it. But for an international student, I believe that the #1 thing you need to do is build your network here in Australia. So if you are lucky enough to have a choice of what work to do, try and choose work where you're going to meet lots of people. I love bartending. I love hospitality work. I love driving an Uber, because you meet lots of people, connect with them on LinkedIn. You do not need LinkedIn Premium, so do not go out and buy that. Buy me a beer instead. Save your money, but connect with lots of people. I think that's key.
Yeah. And I think keep an open mind. We've talked about how you can transition into other careers, but there are people like Benjamin who are fantastic examples of how gig work has opened up so many other doors to start up their own business or create a flexibility and freedom in how they work that potentially someone didn't think about, when they first started gig work.
Can I add to that is also, while you're doing gig work, I would strongly encourage to find out internship opportunities or still follow a professional path which is more related to your course of study or your skill set. Now, gig work will provide you the food on the table. We'll make sure then there are needs that will be met. But let's say in Dom's example, if you're a mechanical engineer, I would still urge you to go invest your time and skill in upskilling yourself more, or connecting with industries in the space, or just go grab an internship from a mechanical firm and just learn things. You could do that, a couple of hours a week or whatever that suits you. But you're trying to double dip your time here at Melbourne, and you're trying to maximize your connection, your learning, and also have a work in that path. So it's very, very important that you balance that too.
Yep. Great point, Benjamin. So we're nearing, I think, the end of our webinar today, but this webinar will be live on our Facebook page on Outcome.Life. We'll also be chopping it up and putting it on YouTube. So if you want to watch it again, or if you want to share it with your friends, please do. Just wanted to say thank you again so much to Benjamin for taking the time today to chat with all of us about the gigging industry and My Gigsters and all the amazing work that you're doing in this space. And thank you as well to Study Melbourne for making these webinars possible. And make sure you check out Career Catalyst as well, and all of our amazing services that we offer there. It's all free. They're all designed to build your employability skills so that you can get work in the fields you're interested in Australia. Awesome.
Yeah, thanks, Anja, for organizing. Dom, you've always been fantastic. And Study Melbourne, we love you. Thanks for the opportunity.
Look after one another, everyone, and we'll see you at the next one.
Cheers.
Great. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks again. Bye.